So, in Star Wars The Last Jedi, the movie tried to convince us that our titular character, Rey, was basically the product of two people who were nobody and who left her abandoned because they could. But that was completely misleading because we know that she is much more than that. In fact, she is a very important character in all of the Star Wars universe because she's a Disney princess. Hi guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach the Nerd. And in this episode, we are reviewing The Rise of Skywalker, the latest and pretty much end of the trilogy that Abrams started back in 2016? Now, I could go over every scene and do a very drawn out review, but that would be over an hour long, and honestly, I'm tired. So, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go over the things that I liked and then the questions that I have, because that seems to be more fun. So, first, I would like to say that the character, and I hope I say his name right, because it goes out of my head, I think it's Bubba Fritt, the little cute little alien who apparently was the First Order droid mechanic, is freaking adorable. I want a plushie or like a Funko doll of him. He is adorable. Just putting that out there. So yeah, let's talk about some stuff that I liked, and then I'll get into questions that I have. One thing that stood out to me in this movie is how awesome Poe's flying skills are. There were a lot of action scenes in this movie, but honestly, Poe, for me, his flying stole a lot of the show. He had some really kick-ass flying scenes that actually rival some of the lightsaber battles we saw. So I was very impressed by that. I also love the fact that Poe, Finn, and Rey had more of a connection, because if you're an OG Star Wars fan, you know that Luke, Han, and Leia had this bond, and even if they were separated or in different missions, they always kind of linked back to each other. But we really didn't have that in the The Force Awakens and the Last Jedi movies, because they were so separated. As a matter of fact, Finn, to me, was more of the protagonist of those movies because he was the one who formed the bond first with Poe and BB-8 and then with Rey. So he was kind of like the linchpin between the two, which is kind of crazy. You know, he linked them together. But now we have them all as a unit. And even though Poe and Rey kind of bicker a lot in this movie, I mean, they're almost like the Han Solo and Leia of the movie, which is interesting because they don't have a romantic connection. Or do they? Who knows at this point with Rey. But I just thought that was interesting that they had that bond. So we finally got to see them all together, all working for a common goal for the most part, which was very reminiscent of the original movie. So I did appreciate that. I also love the fact that Leia was training Rey, and that we got a flashback scene of Leia and Luke training, and Leia basically holding her on against her twin brother, and that she has her own lightsaber. So that, all of that was awesome. I really, really enjoyed it. I liked a lot of this movie, honestly. Of course, I love the fact that they had Lando in it, because, you know, you needed to have him in. He was OG, so, I mean, I'm very excited about that. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie ever, so love Lando. But yeah, I loved a lot of things about this movie. The cinematography was great. The music by John Williams was amazing. I love the fact that all of the scenes kind of played out better. Like it flowed a little bit more. Because when I watched, I think it was the last one, The Last Jedi, everything seemed kind of discombobulated. Like scenes were kind of all over the place. And I know that Carrie Fisher died. I don't know if that had a lot to do with the final edits, but it just seemed like really, really discombobulated. And I really liked how this flowed, even with some of the scenes that they sliced in with Leia, which I knew were actually, you know, filmed earlier for probably, they're cut scenes from earlier movies. I think they incorporated it well. Some people complained about that. They said it was very, you know, jarring to see her, you know, knowing that she's passed. But I mean, if you didn't know Carrie Fisher had died, to me, it wouldn't have made a difference. It flowed very well. But now I'm going to get to the questions that I have. So, number one. So the dagger. I remember reading online before the movie was released, everyone was talking about the dagger as like the key to the movie and the element and blah, blah, blah. But it actually just turned out to be a Sith dagger that had a map on it that tells them how to get to Exegol, or basically the Sith world. So yeah, it wasn't the dagger of Mortis that we saw in the Clone Wars. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a dagger that they needed to find, that apparently Luke was searching for half of his life, but yet conveniently our main characters were able to find within like the first, 45 minutes of the movie instantly, and a lot of things kind of played out that way, but this dagger was just instrumental in getting them next goal. So there's that. So I will say the Knights of Ren is probably one of the things that I question first. There's supposed to be this like elite force, that Kylo Ren is basically very high up, ranked wise in, and there's this bad butt warriors. But all he really did was like walk around for most of the movie. They had like a cool action scene with Kylo Ren where at this point he's Ben Solo now, where he basically takes them out. And I don't know if there's any left because I don't know how many there were to begin with. But yeah, they're dead. So it's like they literally had very small, insignificant roles for characters that are supposed to be very, very badass. So there's that. So another question I have is Leia. Leia is supposed to be bonded with her brother and have a very strong connection, which means she's just as strong as Luke's twin in the Force as Luke's supposed to be. So then why is it that she had to use all of her strength to reach her son through the Force telepathically to the point where it would kill her? But yet the ghost version of Luke was able to levitate his old X-Wing from the water. It's like, I don't understand that. I don't get it. And I understand that she's a lot older, but I still don't understand why she had to die. I know from the actress standpoint, her not being alive anymore, I get it. But considering this is the last movie in this trilogy with Rey, that I'm assuming Daisy Ridley's not coming back, why did they kill Leia that way? Or if they were going to kill her, why wasn't it something a little bit more believable? And when she vanished, where did she go? This brings me to my next question. So Kylo Ren and Rey have this very weird connection to the Force. I understand that he's the dark side of the Force and she's more the light side of the Force, but they have a connection that transcends and is stronger than Luke and Leia, who were twins. Like, they're able to pull physical objects through the Force and time space, into each other. So like if she needs like a lightsaber or vice versa, like the scene where he pulls, or she needed the lightsaber from her and she's able to send it to him through physical space, they can do that. But why? Why are they so connected? I mean, they've only shared physical space with each other for what, a total of like 20, 30 minutes? Like one of them was a battle or two of them were fights. Probably 5 or 10 minutes, and maybe when he was torturing her, maybe that was an additional 20 minutes. But I mean, I don't understand why their connection is that strong unless horniness adds an extra level to the Force connection, which is what I think is going on. So yeah, that's an interesting perspective to have them be this close and they're not even physically related, but yet have Luke and Leia, who are twins, not have that strong of a connection in the Force. They have a connection, but not like Rey and Ben or Rey and Kylo. I just don't understand why. So I'm questioning that, and I need to know why. So if you guys understand it, please give me a comment below, because that's, other than the fact that they were sexually attracted to each other, which is still strange, because I saw a reviewer who actually said that if you really look at their relationship, Kylo spent more time killing off and hurting people that Rey loves than he's done anything good and beneficial. So she's attracted to that. So is that like Stockholm Syndrome? I don't know. She likes bad guys, or in his case, sociopaths. I don't know what the attraction is, but a lot of people are so pro Rey and Kylo that I guess I just look past all of that. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a Vegeta Bulma thing. He was bat butt crazy and she was bossy, and somehow they connected. Maybe that's a whole Rey Kylo thing too. I don't know, but it's very confusing. So their connection confuses me. It really does. All right, so moving on to other questions that I have. It was very convenient how they did come across a lot of things that they needed very quickly. I read that this entire movie takes place in like 16 hours. So they did a lot of traveling through space and time from core planets to wherever they needed to go. But I don't understand why, because in the OG Star Wars, it took a lot of time to get somewhere, like 18 hours, 5 hours, 2 days, whatever. How are they able to get across the galaxy in these short spans of time? Like, Another reviewer that I watched after I saw the movie initially actually pointed out something that I agree with. How in the heck did Lando gather all of these people and all of these forces to come to the Sith world to fight all these Star Destroyers, fully loaded, gunned, weaponized ships, battleships, in half an hour? I don't get it. So either they have transcended through their light speed what Star Trek does with the warp drive, and like it is in the future, maybe they do have something a little extra they didn't have in OG Star Wars or any of the animated movies, but they did a lot of traveling in very short spans of time. They made it seem like it only took a half an hour to each way to go wherever they needed to go. So that to me was also very interesting, and I don't really understand. But so back to some of the stuff in the movie that also is a little confusing, like the character Rose. So I remember Rose kissing Finn and having this whole thing. But in this movie, they had nothing. There was no connection. They weren't even, it's like they were high-fiving each other and moving around about their day, you know? What happened? Why were we not given some kind of closure on that? They were setting it up in the last movie like there was a love triangle. Now, to be fair, this is a different director. They had different directors. But it just seems like as Abram is the producer, he should be keeping them on some kind of track where it doesn't look like a loose end or basically doesn't make sense. So, yeah, it was interesting that that whole Rose and Finn thing just kind of never went anywhere. And then there's Finn being force sensitive. Is he force sensitive? I think he is. I mean, it takes a lot of mind power to break a freaking stormtrooper brainwashing program in your head. So that alone tells me he had a very strong will. But then he started sensing Rey, and there were like elements of it even in the last movie where he was able to tell if something was going on with her, and to the point where he even felt her when she died. So yeah, I think Finn is force sensitive, and I think eventually he will become a Jedi if given the opportunity, and Rey trains him or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting that doesn't fleshed out a little bit more, and also what he was going to tell Rey. Was it that I love you, or basically, hey, guess what? I think I'm a Jedi too. I don't know. We're never gonna know because they never let that happen. They left it open-ended. So that's a little strange. But yeah, so that whole thing with Kylo and Rey, back to their relationship with when they're both. He kind of redeemed himself. Well, I guess this movie is kind of like a Ben Solo redemption movie in a way, except he dies. But he dies saving her. So, like, he saves her by basically transferring all of his life energy through the Force to her and bringing her back to life. But essentially that means that he had to die. But they had this very awkward kiss, which is for me it was strange. Because I get it. I mean, honestly, their relationship was always kind of stalkerish. It's like everywhere she went, he kind of knew she was there. It was like really weird. And for a while, I was like, okay, you have a stalker that will not go away. But it almost felt like she liked it. So it was a very strange relationship to begin with. But that kiss was so weird. And it was so fast. And then he just died. And then it was like, oh, okay. And then we moved on. There was no tribute. There was like, oh, Ben came back and helped in the end. And, I was able to defeat Palpatine because of him and blah, blah, blah. No. He just kind of died. And in the end, we don't even see a Jedi spirit or ghost of him, which is very strange. So does that mean his entire essence, when he faded away, like his mom, because he faded away when his mom did his essence absorb into Rey's body? Is that, and then now they're one completely? I don't know. That's kind of creepy to think about, but I mean, that could be, right? I don't know. What happened to him when he died? Where is his Jedi ghost? I mean, even Anakin got a freaking appearance at the end of his movie when we saw them slice into Return of the Jedi and they just added him. When you see Yoda and Obi-Wan, then you see him. So, I mean, why didn't Ben get that when his mom and his uncle were standing there? Questions. I just have questions. And then we finally realized that Disney Princess Rey is actually the granddaughter of Palpatine. Now, my problem with this, it's not a problem. I'm fine with it. But throughout the entire movie, Leia, all these people are saying, don't be afraid of who you are. Don't be afraid of who you are. Embrace who you are. Just embrace it. And at the end of the movie, they ask her what her last name is. And she says, Skywalker. Like, so you are ashamed of who you are. And I understand. A good friend of mine pointed out it would be like going around telling somebody your name was Hitler. I do understand that. But it's like, as a Jedi, you don't have the same constraints that we have as humans. Like, you're not supposed to be, worried about trivial matters about what other people think about you. I mean, let's be fair. Darth Vader's name was Anakin Skywalker, and yet Luke still calls himself Skywalker, even after knowing Darth Vader is his dad. So it wasn't like the Skywalker name was just golden, throughout the universe. So, yeah, Palpatine is a butthole. Everyone knows it. But his son and his daughter-in-law sacrificed themselves so their child could not be used and abused and made to be another grandfather Palpatine. So, and their last name was Palpatine. So, why would you not embrace that fact? Your parents sacrificed for you, but yet you're like, but Leia was there for me, and Luke and Spirit Luke, so I'm going to be a Skywalker now. So it's just really weird. And I don't want to come off that I didn't like this movie. I actually think this is the best of the three, honestly. I really do. I like Force Awakens, but I really like this one. Wasn't a fan of The Last Jedi, I'm going to be real with you, but this one is the best of the three. It's just there's so many things that I question. And I know when I'm done with this video, I'll be thinking of more things later on because that's just what happens. But it's just strange, the journey was strange. But yeah, there was a lot of cinematography moments that I liked. I loved the when they went to where they were going to get the next clue, and they end up in the basically the world that had the old Death Star, and you see Kylo and Rey fighting, and that was gorgeous. The water was gorgeous. All of that was gorgeous. There was one scene though, like a part of that scene when they were discussing how to get across the water. If you look behind Finn, you can tell it's like a drop-in shot. Like the water is still. So it's like a green screen picture was behind it of the water, and it was not moving. I don't know if that meant for that to happen, but it was hilarious because I picked that out. But I mean, for the most part, though, it was really, really pretty. I loved the fact that we got a little bit more information about Poe, him being a spice runner, and what was her name? Zari Bliss, I think, Kerry Russell's character, who was like his love interest, who basically was ticked that he left to join the Resistance, and ended up being very instrumental in Poe surviving. So I did like that. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to the movie that I really loved. I loved all the little Easter eggs we got from the OG series that you see around, the movie, and especially the Resistance base. Of course, we got Billie Lourd, Carrie Fisher's real daughter, still had her little role as, I want to say she runs the comms, but I'm not really sure where her role is, but it was nice to see her in the movie. I did notice when they did Leia's memorial tribute, she was not in that scene, probably because it was too hard since that's her mother in real life, but yeah, I did notice that she was not in that scene. But yeah, there were a lot of things I did like about this movie. I think they probably, if I was doing this movie, they probably could have done a little bit more with Ben, meaning what I would have done, and this is just my own perspective, I think I would have had Rey and him grow up together. Because then it would have made the connection a little bit more believable in my mind. Like if they both trained, and when Luke tried to kill him and Ben was trying to kill everybody else, Rey was the one person he couldn't kill, and they already had that connection going, and she could still not know who she was, and he could still be turning towards the dark side, and then it would have made it more her mission to bring Ben back. That would have been cool. But they didn't do that. But they should have done that, because that whole relationship to me was just strange. It just was. I mean, they had this instant connection that didn't make sense. It was almost like love at first sight or lust at first sight on Kylo's end. Well, Rey just felt repulsed, but she liked it, and it just seems like the biggest Stockholm Syndrome thing I've ever seen. It's really weird. But yeah. Outside of that, though, I did enjoy the movie. The shot with all of the ships coming from everywhere, the allies coming in, that to me was amazing. I did not understand. I know a lot of people were talking about this. Palpatine's mission has always been about immortality. So the fact that he wanted his granddaughter to strike him down and take his place didn't make any sense. And also the fact that he was able to drain both Ben and her simultaneously. I don't know when he got that ability. That was really weird. And if he could have done that from the jump, then why didn't he just do that instead of saying, oh, I'm going to have you strike me down. No, I'm just going to take your youth and power myself up like a battery. This doesn't make sense. So that part was a little like, huh? But I did like the scene where she's calling on all of the Jedis, and she tried to do it earlier in the movie and it didn't work, but every Jedi before her basically became part of her. She was hearing their voices in her head. Obi-Wan, everybody was in her head. And she was able to fight against her grandfather and win at the cost of her pretty much dying. And then, of course, Ben coming in to save her. But yeah, that to me was crazy. The shot where Palpatine used his lightning to basically disable all of the ships around him, that was also pretty cool. So that a lot of the cinematography, a lot of the shots, the movie was gorgeous. It's just these questions that I have. And then one of the last things, I know I have more, but one of the last things I can think of is, I think her name was Jada. She was the other stormtrooper runaway, I guess, a deserter that Finn kind of bonds with. She has this conversation with Lando, and Lando says, or she asks Lando where you're from, and he's like, from the old space or old time, whatever, and he asks where are you from, and she's like, I don't know, and he said, well, let's find out. And I'm like, I don't know if that meant that that's going to be something that's going to happen in the future, and maybe another spin-off of this movie. If we're going to find out that she's actually related to Lando in some way, which I initially thought maybe Finn was, related to Lando, maybe like his grandson or something that got lost or stolen, because, they were kidnapping kids all over to put him into the Stormtrooper program. So, I mean, I don't know. But I don't know, it would be kind of cool to see if she had that connection to Lando and if we were going to see that. And also, if we do a continuation, is Ben really dead? Just because he disappeared does not mean he's dead. We don't know. I mean, we didn't see a ghost. He could be out there living his best life. I don't know. He could be hiding from everyone because he feels ashamed of all of the murdering and all of the basically the destruction and tearing apart his mother's dream that he himself has aided in doing. I mean, I probably feel a lot of shame about that, and when I want to jump to the resistance and be like, I helped for like 5 minutes, and sorry about all these other years I was killing you all, but for 5 minutes I was there. So I could see him not wanting to come out in that regard. So I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting if they did a spinoff of Ben, or even a prequel where we got Ben Solo's story, like what drove him to that point? When did he start turning dark? You know what I mean? Just from his point of view. That would be very cool, leading up to The Force Awakens. I don't know, and there's a lot they can do. I'm really hoping that they take advantage of the fact that they have a lot of open-ended stories. We've got Finn here, being Force sensitive. We have Ben. Don't know what the heck happened to him. Is he dead? Is he not dead? What's going to happen now with Rey? I know the actress does not want to continue doing Star Wars. So from my point of view, if she's the last Jedi, we probably aren't going to have any more Jedi. So Finn needs to be Force sensitive because we're not going to have any more movies if we're going by Daisy Ridley. So what is going to happen? I really want to know. So yeah, these were my questions. I know I'm going to have a lot more because that's what happens. I start thinking and I'm like, oh, and what about this? And oh, what about that? But I want to know what you guys think. So leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next on the nerd ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys. And if you have time, don't forget to check out some of these other videos.